As almost all of us have noticed, Americans have been growing more and more politically divided. Now, a new survey by the Pew Research Center finds that Americans believe that polarization will deepen in the coming decades. Our economics correspondent, Paul Solman, is just back from Louisiana, where he looked at some of those big divides, and particularly with regard to jobs, industry, and how to regulate industrial pollution. It's part of our weekly series, Making Sense.
What do you make of Arlie?
One of the best persons that I've come to know.
But she's a liberal.
She's a communist. She's from Berkeley, California. You know?
In 2011, Arlie Hochschild trekked from the deep blue Berkeley Hills of California to bright red Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana.
I lived in a blue bubble. I wanted to get into a red bubble. And behind it, I was wondering about this red state paradox.
It was the supposed paradox that prompted Hochschild, a prominent sociologist, to make 14 trips here and resulted in her 2016 bestseller, Strangers in Their Own Land: Anger and Mourning on the American Right.
It is the poorest states, those with more high school dropouts, higher crime rates, more pollution, lower life expectancies, are also those states that receive more money from the federal government in aid than they give to it in tax dollars and revile the federal government. That's the red state paradox.
And Louisiana, she came to believe,
turns out to be an exaggerated version of the red state paradox. It is the second poorest state in the Union. It has a life expectancy 5 years less than Connecticut, more like Nicaragua, actually. 44% of the state budget comes from the federal government.
So why do so many here hate government so much? Because, Hochschild thinks, they feel betrayed by it, most immediately at the state level.
The state of Louisiana, for example, which is dominated by the oil industry, has permitted Louisiana to become highly polluted. They feel that companies at least are giving them jobs, even though the companies are doing the polluting. But the state is paid to protect them, and it isn't.
To make the point, one of Hochschild's book subjects, environmentalist Mike Tritico, took us on a toxic tour of the Lake Charles area, starting with the Interstate 10 bridge over the Calcasieu River.
All of this that we're crossing over is contaminated with ethylene dichloride, a synthetic man-made chlorinated hydrocarbon that is toxic and destroys the clay. It collapses the crystals, which means that underneath that bridge there is not sufficient support.
The contamination was first reported in 1994, but since they can't replace the bridge because of the chemical's effects, the latest plan? A suspension toll bridge over the troubled waters.
It'd be like the Golden Gate Bridge, that kind of scale.
Does driving on it make him nervous?
I don't go across it unless I have to.
In nearby Sulphur, Louisiana, named for the sulfur mines down below, a landfill accepting hazardous waste from as far away as Hawaii.
How hazardous?
The most dangerous molecules ever invented.
How come it comes here?
Because they got themselves grandfathered in before the Louisiana regulations were developed. That was before some of the federal regulations, like Hazardous and Solid Waste Act.
Meanwhile, dotting the sky...
How many flares are there around here?
Oh, I don't know, dozens and dozens.
And what are they burning?
Usually it's off-spec products, and they can't sell it. They just burn it off and try to start over and do a more pure product.
In Westlake, around the corner from the old PPG plant that makes silicas for use in tires and footwear, and right across the street from the new Latte chemical plant that makes ethylene glycol for use in antifreeze and polyester, Hochschild took us to a pair of her subjects, now friends. Annette and Harold Areno live in what used to be paradise for them, cypress-proud Bayou Dande.
How come the cypresses aren't here anymore and the fish aren't here anymore?
They all died.
As industry bloomed all around them.
We had fish kills from the chemicals that were getting in the water.
Yeah, killed the trees, killed the fish, killed the frogs, killed everything. Everything big enough to die.
Well, you must have complained.
It didn't do any good. Nobody heard you.
Though there are no warning signs, PCB-drenched Bayou Dand, poisoned years back, was named a federal Superfund site in 2003. The polluters have been ordered to pay for cleanup, but there's no plan yet. Meanwhile, the side effects of local industry continue.
When a long time ago, when the tower fell, all that pollution come in here so thick.
A plume of carcinogenic vinyl chloride from a 2013 explosion at the nearby Axiall plant.
Did anybody come and explain what happened?
No. And no one has ever come and said, we need to get you people out of here.
This is my family. We had 10 in the family.
And what's happened to all these brothers and sisters?
Most all of them died that had cancer. And this is my sister that just died within about the last month.
Harold Areno had also had cancer, though he acknowledges there's no hard evidence the chemicals caused it.
Who do you blame for this? Do you blame the companies that are around here? Do you blame local government?
See, government wants all this stuff, but government don't have to live in it. The people that's living in it got to tolerate all the noise, the pollution, and everything that's been destroyed.
We've had Democrat governors, we've had Republican governors. I haven't seen much difference in our situation.
It's been a while.
Now, many of Arlie Hochschild's sources, though they too have become friends, dispute the claims of unusual environmental degradation in Louisiana. The Areno's niece, Janice Areno, ardent champion of the GOP, is a conservative who thinks the federal government has made too much of an effort on climate change, for instance.
I think it's a whole big ripoff. I don't think that we are doing things to the climate that's making the Arctic melt. Or, I mean, look at northern United States is all snowed in right now.
As for the state's pollution and health record,
People have cancer all over the United States. I mean, there's been studies on it, and some have said, but we also like having the industry here. And over the years, lots of things have been done to change the emissions and to change the regulations about what goes up in the air or what they're exposed to on the job.
If you do get hurt off the job or you're sick, Aflac will pay you till you can come back for up to 2 years.
insurance broker and Republican activist Sharon Galicia is yet another of Hochschild's sources who disagrees with her.
We're not saying just go ahead and pollute everything, but we feel like there's too much government overreach in our everyday lives. And
Examples?
Well, guns. We're very big hunters down here, lots of guns. We want to buy the guns we want to buy. Don't tell me how much ammunition I can have. Healthcare or not healthcare. They want to buy it if they want to, not because they have to. If they want a car that gets 10 miles to the gallon, they want to buy a car that gets 10 miles to the gallon.
There's a general sentiment around here, I don't know if you guys share it or not, that government's the problem.
Louisiana government or just the government in general? The state is broke. I mean, that's why the highways look like they do, and that's why the I-10 bridge is probably one of the top 10 worst bridges in the world.
And whose fault is it, I'm sorry?
The state? I mean, we pay our taxes.
So, in the end, what's Hochschild's conclusion about the resentment of government in a state like Louisiana so dependent on it?
It's a colonized state. It's colonized by oil, gas, petrochemicals, and the government does what it does at the behest of these larger interests.
To Republicans, though, the larger interests are those of liberal federal ideologues who overreach on social issues and dictate orders to local agencies like Louisiana's Department of Environmental Quality.
30 cars came to take a picture of a little diesel spill. I just think there's too many people, too many bureaucrats. I believe it could be run a lot more efficiently with less people.
So no red state paradox for the likes of Sharon Galicia, because it's the swamp in Washington, D.C. that needs draining, not the bayous of Louisiana.
This is your property here?
But tell that to the Arenos. For the PBS NewsHour, economics correspondent Paul Salmon, reporting from Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana.